Let's dive in. Welcome everybody back to Sonoma Brain Trust, smoky, beautiful, sunshine, California today. It's kind of apocalyptic out there today, I would say. We're really excited though today. We have Bonnie Lee with Taxpertise joining us here in Sonoma to hear a little bit more about what's been happening in the tax world. It's been a really quite an interesting year from a tax perspective. My co-host, Mary Piasta, is joining us from beautiful, windy Washington. So we apologize if the audio is a little bit out today for Mary. And Chelsie Runnings, if she has to run immediately from Better Homes and Garden, that's because there's a wildfire near her house right now. So it's that kind of a strange time for us here in California. And unfortunately, it's not the fall yet. So well, hopefully this is the end of it for fire season. But without further ado, let's jump in, and we really want to hear more about what's happening in the tax world, Bonnie.
Well, actually, there's a new item on the agenda on August 8th. Trump introduced a executive order, which doesn't mean it has to be followed. It's like a suggestion, but it's also an option for employers to not withhold Social Security and Medicare taxes on their employees' pay. So for like every $1,000 worth of payroll for an employee, that could mean a savings, a bigger take-home pay for them of $76.50. So the problem with that is, it is a deferral. It's not going to be forgiven. They initially talked about forgiving it, but that immediately kind of went by the wayside. But the problem with it is that the employers are responsible for turning over those payroll taxes next year. There's a deferral now through December 31st, and next year the employers have to turn it over. And the question then is, what if those employees aren't working for them anymore? Here's money that they've given to the employees that they are now responsible for turning over to the Internal Revenue Service. And now they have to collect it from their employees, which means possibly double withholding on an employee's pay, in the subsequent year. And that could be pretty painful for a person who, has been suffering financially anyway. And this employee now has to, double down on their Social Security and Medicare. So that's a huge issue. Me and my employee.
Hold on, let me time out for a sec, Bonnie. Make sure I'm wrapping my head around this nonsense I just heard you say. Right. So, are you telling me that employers are going to give instead of withholding for their employees, they're going to give that to their employee? Then yes. Next year, the employer has to pay it back.
They have to pay it back to the IRS, and they have to collect it from their employees to pay back. So that presents a multitude of problems. Mm-hmm. Number one, what if the employee, starts screaming, "I'm poor," or they have quit their job, and now they aren't there to collect the money from via the double withholding on next year's pay. And
so effectively, it's a pay garnishment, right? I mean, they're
essentially, yeah. It would be kind of a pay. That's kind of a cruel way to put it, but it's true. That's exactly what it is.
Right.
And they'll be all happy about getting that extra money right now. I had a meeting with my employees and said, well, this is available if you want it. Here's how much extra your take-home pay would be. Do you want to go this route? And they all, no, none of them were interested in doing that. And I strongly suggest it because it becomes an administrative nightmare. There's all this additional record keeping and then just the whole, interplay with their employees as time wears on and the payments become due.
So how does one opt in or opt out though? Is it just like
you just do it? You either do it or you don't.
So what's your recommendation to business, Bonnie, and maybe even businesses that might look at closing in the next year?
Yeah, see, there's that too. I would suggest that they don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, right now, employers can enjoy a payroll tax deferral through December 31st on their employee payroll taxes, but then that has to start being paid back, and things are not getting better. And I predict that, you know, by next summer, we're going to have a lot of tax resolution cases before us, because this is creating a lot of tax problems. You know, we're looking at, you know, people with taxes coming due next April 15th, and maybe they've been collecting unemployment. And if they've been collecting unemployment, that's taxable. Employment without withholding. And then they've got their Social Security, you know, maybe they've gotten a job and their Social Security is being deferred. And now that has to be paid back. And they've got this big tax bill, and it's just going to be something of a nightmare.
It's like smoke and mirrors, right? It's just, it's sounds too good to be true.
Yes, Chelsie, that's exactly what it is. So that's one of the big problems. Now, speaking of wildfires, because Sonoma County is involved in wildfires, there has been an extension of the extension for filing taxes. So instead of, you know, if you filed for an extension on April 15th or July 15th, if you'd found out about the due date, for October 15th, it is now being extended to December 15th if you live in Sonoma County in the wildfire areas. So that means any other areas in California that are subject to the wildfires as well.
Which is like the whole state now.
Yeah, pretty much. The whole state's on fire.
Right.
So,
And is that for, Bonnie, is that for both federal and state taxes?
the last I heard, I think state was going to comply with it as well. They usually do in a situation like this. There's usually compliance, but I haven't heard yet if they have.
Okay, thank you.
In addition to smoke and mirrors, it really sounds like this is a classic kick the can. I mean, all across the economy, right? Every single one of these new things people or the politicians are rolling out is just, yeah, sure, you can kick your can further. And then, so my outlook is, you know, you should probably not kick the can, right? Like, how do we deal with reality?
I agree, Daren. I agree. I think it's, you know, like I've been paying my payroll taxes all along because, you know, I don't want to end up on December 31st going, oh, I owe what? You know, and having to come up with it. You know, I want to have a nice Christmas. So, you know, without knowing this is going to come booming down on me.
And not pay for last April, this coming April, right? I mean,
right.
Like, let's close out 2020 on December 31st and call it good and not have to pay 2021, right?
Yeah, just blow up the year.
That never happened. I don't know what happened in 2020, but it just didn't happen.
I saw a post on Facebook, you know, it was like Barney or something, and it says I wouldn't be surprised if the dinosaurs came back, you know.
Oh yeah, right. Anything's possible.
What was like the President Trump obviously pushed very hard for this payroll cut for his stimulus package. Other than employees getting to take home maybe $70 a month only to have it paid back at the end of the year, was there any real advantage to this? Why do you think there was like such this pushback for it?
It's kind of hard to say what was going through his mind. I think perhaps, you know, the most obvious benefit is that employees get additional take-home pay, and that would help them during, you know, if they've had pay cuts or shorter hours, or, you know, this would help them, you know, make ends meet. The bigger, you know, there was a story in Forbes about, you know, does this mean Trump is this is a slice at defunding the Social Security system? Well, something like this would not defund the Social Security system. It's not, you know, big enough to do that. There's not enough magnitude to defund it. But there was that theory as well, which, you know.
It's basically like a short-term solution to a long-term problem. Get a
Yeah,
little bit of money right now, but in the end, you're gonna have to pay it back.
you're going to have to pay it back. Yeah, it was fine when it looked like there might be an element of forgiveness, but that talk quickly went away. So, yeah. Now, what's nice is if you got a PPP loan, because there is forgiveness on that. And so
let's talk about this. Tell us a little bit more how those get forgiven. We've covered on this show previously PPP loans. It's probably time to bring back in the PPP discussion.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right now, I think they're still coming up with guidance on what forms and to use to apply for the forgiveness. And I wouldn't even bother to try to apply for it right now. You have a year from when you receive the funds to apply for the forgiveness. And so, they're basically saying, initially it was that you had to use, I think it was 75% of the proceeds for payroll, and also utilities, rent, and they had something about transportation in there, and then that just kind of fell by the wayside. I don't know if that's still an element. Then it dropped down to 60% had to be used, and they gave you a look back period of, what was it, 6 months, 24 weeks?
Are you actually seeing
So
PPP
that
get
was
forgiven?
Not
yet. You haven't seen it
Not
come
yet. I don't think and nobody I know has applied for
Got
it
it.
yet.
Okay.
And I don't think it's actually, I don't think any of the lenders are even extending that benefit yet, because there's still so much guidance that needs to come through from the SBA and the IRS for the forgiveness package.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a crazy year.
It is. There's so many levels to crazy this year.
I know. That's very true.
Hey, at least, Bonnie, you have extra time to deal with these tax issues, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all the extensions.
Oh, and then you, but I'd rather be Christmas shopping than doing tax returns on December 15th.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
it is, I'm kind of like, I don't want my clients to know, because I'd love for the work to come in timely so that I have time to, get it all done and maybe have a nice Thanksgiving and Christmas without taxes all over.
Well, and that can be a preventative approach too, or proactive. You can reach out to your clients in general. And I've heard other offices, they're just encouraging people to file at the usual time frames in any event, right? So just to get it in, because who knows what this backlog is going to do. So you might as well have yours at the top of the pile being dealt with rather than later on.
Does that mean that if you don't push it out longer and longer, that you don't eventually have to pay your taxes anyway?
You sound like a lot of my clients, Darren.
I know the thinking, right? If I just extend this thing, I don't have to pay because that's better.
Yeah, really.
Maybe there'll be forgiveness, right?
Yeah. And you should probably keep a tab on how much you pay for masks, because I'm sure that's a deductible medical expense. Why? Absolutely.
Hey, I walked into Home Depot the other day, and they're now selling copper-lined masks because that's better for your circulation.
Yeah. There was that whole thing about, if you wear a copper bracelet, you'll live to be 190 or something. I remember
made it to mask level now.
Yeah, there you go.
It's always something.
There's some clever gimmick for you.
Well, is there anything else you want to add, Bonnie? I mean, this has been really enlightening.
Well, good. No, I can't think of anything that's, new and improved, over the prior year tax stuff.
So to wrap it up, pay your taxes anyway. Don't file extension because you're going to have to pay them anyway. Try to close out what you can this year. Don't buy into this payroll holiday of sorts.
Oh, yeah.
There's not much advantage.
It'll come back to bite you.
That's right.
And if you are collecting unemployment, I think it would behoove you to have federal withholding. Have the feds withhold something. It might be a little painful. A lot of people can't afford that. So go ahead and not have your withholding and then just skip down. Move
to Canada, right?
Oh gosh. Yeah, you can add up for people. So
it absolutely can, and I would venture to say that, with people making about $50,000 on unemployment right now, if you're unemployed, there's a whole lot of people that are going to be paying some taxes that they don't know they're going to be paying.
Yeah, this 25% tax bracket. That's about 12 grand right there. So
I venture to bet people have not saved 12 grand because I've watched them invest in Tesla, and what's happened to Tesla the last 3 days. Well, they don't have it anymore.
What happened? What happened to Tesla?
Oh, Tesla's just gotten clobbered ever since it split last Monday. Today
Apple's doing good. Apple split, and they're doing good, or at least they were the last time I looked.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at your FANG stocks, Tesla's down 17% today. So at the split, it was at 500 per share, and now it's down around 346 a share.
Oh, that's a lot.
Apple got clobbered 4% today. So at its split, it was at high of, how about 137.98, and it's hanging out at 115 today.
Oh, okay.
So what's happening is all these big tech stocks are just getting smashed right now, and they've gotten so big, they're just really getting, they're taking a chunk out of the market.
Bonnie, where do people find you if they want to seek your advice? I know you represent individuals and businesses all over. You have your amazing radio show and publications. But if they were looking to find you, what's the best way?
Oh, they ought to come on downtown. We're at Taxpertise. We're at 450 2nd Street West. So it's between Spain and Napa. And the phone number is 707-935-1755. And you can always write to me at bonnie@taxpertise.com. So.
And as people look at this unemployment issue, both from the employer side and the employee, like they can reach out and seek, advice from your point of view, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, you deal with both sides.
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
And then there's Angela Andrews, who works for me. She's also an enrolled agent. And she's
great.
She's Angela at taxpertise.com. And she's a good resource to talk to as well. And I'm not around. Now, our office is technically closed right now. We aren't doing any face-to-face appointments, but we have a closed sign on the door, but everybody's in there working. And so you can always, whip on the door and, pick up stuff and leave off stuff. And, there's somebody usually there between 10 and 2. So.
Right. And it's just a sign of the times right now for business. So, the modified operations to the COVID regulations. So, but that's great that you're available by email and phone, for existing and new
best
clients.
To get me by email, because I'm only going into the office 1 day a week at this point. I've been working remotely, which I love.
Awesome.
Yeah, I do like that.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I can attest to how responsive you are for clients, and individuals, and just the instant feedback is really, really helpful. So,
thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Bonnie, for joining us today on Sonoma Brain Trust. We appreciate your expertise and, sharing with our community here.